A whisper between the letters. Celine and Bonnie had promised each other it would only be a joke. The old Ouija board had been bought for £2 from a dusty charity shop. Its wooden surface was stained black with age, and strange scratches covered the edges, as though someone had desperately tried to destroy it. Probably just teenagers, Bonnie laughed. Celine wasn't so sure. The old woman at the till had stared at them as they paid. "You shouldn't take that home," she whispered. Bonnie had smiled politely. "It isn't a toy." They laughed all the way home. That night they lit 3 candles in Bonnie's attic bedroom. Rain hammered the roof while thunder rolled overhead. Bonnie placed 2 fingers on the planchette. "Ready?" Celine hesitated before joining her. "Ready?" Nothing happened. Bonnie grinned. "Told you." Then the wooden pointer twitched. Both girls looked at each other. "Was that you?" "No." Planchette slid slowly. H-E-L-L-O. Bonnie swallowed. "Celine, I'm not moving it." Neither was smiling anymore. The room suddenly felt colder. "Who are you?" Bonnie whispered. The pointer moved instantly. N-O-B-O-D-Y. A sharp knock echoed from somewhere inside the attic wall. Both girls froze. Another knock. Then another. 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. "There isn't anyone up here," Celine whispered. Planchette began racing around the board. F-I-N-D-M-E. Something scratched behind them. Both girls spun around. Nothing, only dusty boxes. When they turned back, the pointer was already moving again. U-N-D-E-R. The scratching became louder. It wasn't behind them anymore. It was underneath the floorboards, like fingernails scraping wood. Bonnie jumped back. "We're done." She tried lifting her fingers away. She couldn't. Neither could Celine. It felt as though invisible hands were pressing their fingertips down. Pointer shot across the board. D-O-N-T-L-E-A-V-E. Attic light went out. Darkness. Only the candles flickered. Then someone laughed. Not either of them. A low, rasping chuckle came from the far corner. Celine slowly lifted her torch. A beam landed on an old mirror leaning against the wall. There was someone standing inside it. A tall figure with no face, just darkness where its features should have been. When Celine turned to look into the room, there was nobody there. Back in the mirror, the figure had moved closer. Bonnie screamed. The candles blew out. Complete darkness. The scratching beneath the floor became pounding. Boom, 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 as though someone was trying to climb out. The girls finally managed to pull their hands free. They ran downstairs, slamming every door behind them. Neither slept that night. Next morning, Bonnie threw the Ouija board into a skip across town. By evening, it was back in her attic, covered in fresh mud, waiting. Planchette was already sitting on one word. "Hello." And beneath it, scratched into the wood, letters that hadn't been there before. "Thank you for letting me out." The Last question. Thea, Dean, Elise and Anton rented an isolated cottage deep in the countryside for a weekend away. The owner had left only one rule, written on a faded card beside the fireplace. Do not use the Ouija board in the loft. Naturally, they laughed. By midnight, the four friends had climbed into the dusty loft with torches and a single candle. Hidden beneath an old blanket sat a beautifully carved Ouija board, unlike any they'd seen before. Every letter appeared to have been burnt into the wood by hand. Anton smirked. Let's wake some ghosts. They all rested 2 fingers on the planchette. Is anyone here? Elise asked. Nothing. Dean rolled his eyes, and the candle flame stretched sideways. The temperature plunged. The planchette lurched violently. Y-E-S. Thea swallowed. What's your name? The pointer moved so fast they struggled to read it. N-O-N-E. Non. Anton laughed nervously. Again it moved. I-H-A-V-E-N-O-N-A-M-E. A heavy thud echoed from below. Someone was walking around downstairs. Slow, deliberate. The 4 of them stared at each other. We're alone, Dean whispered. The footsteps stopped directly beneath the loft. Then came a knock. 3 slow knocks. The trapdoor handle began to turn. Dean yanked it shut. It's probably settling, he muttered. Board moved again. D-O-N-T-L-E-T-I-T-I-N. Every window in the cottage shattered at once. The candle went out. In the darkness, someone whispered from the corner. Thank you. Anton shone his torch. No one. Then Elise gasped. A 5th shadow stretched across the wall. It didn't belong to any of them. It was impossibly tall. Its arms reached the floor. Its head brushed the ceiling. The shadow slowly lifted one long finger and pointed directly at Anton. Anton laughed weakly. I'm not scared. His voice echoed, then echoed again. From somewhere behind him, he spun around. Standing inches away was a pale figure with empty eye sockets and a smile far too wide. The torch died. Everyone screamed. When they finally escaped the cottage just before dawn, Anton wasn't with them. Police searched for weeks. No footprints, no blood, no sign of him. The only thing they found was the Ouija board. Its carved alphabet had changed. There were now 5 fingerprints burned permanently into the wood. The nursery mirror. Beth had just moved into a beautiful Victorian house with her 6-month-old daughter Zoe. Previous owners had left behind an enormous antique mirror in the nursery. Beth meant to get rid of it, but with unpacking, sleepless nights and caring for Zoe, she never found the time. At first it was little things. Whenever Beth rocked Zoe to sleep, the baby smiled. Not at her, but at the mirror. Every night, always the mirror. One evening Beth caught her own reflection waving, only she hadn't moved. The reflection slowly lowered its hand after she already had, just a second behind. Beth blinked. Everything was normal again. She convinced herself she was exhausted. Then Zoe began giggling in the middle of the night. Beth rushed into the nursery. Her daughter was standing in her cot, laughing at the mirror. Tiny hand pressed against the glass. From inside the reflection, another tiny hand pressed back. Beth froze. She snatched Zoe away. The reflected baby remained inside the mirror, still smiling, still standing, watching them leave. The next morning the reflection was normal again. Beth covered the mirror with a blanket. That night she awoke to crying. The blanket had fallen. The mirror was uncovered. Beth ran into the nursery. The cot was empty. Her heart stopped. Then she noticed movement inside the mirror. Reflected Beth stood beside the cot, holding Zoe. The real nursery was empty. Beth screamed and slammed both hands against the glass. The reflected Beth smiled. Slowly, she shook her head. No. Then she turned and walked away, with reflected Zoe into complete darkness. Beth hit the mirror again. It cracked. The reflected nursery shattered. Suddenly the real nursery returned. Zoe was back in her cot, crying. Beth grabbed her and fled the house forever. Months later the abandoned house was sold again. The estate agent removed every piece of furniture, except one, the mirror. No one could move it, because every time they tried, someone inside pushed back. The woman in the glass. Susie loved collecting antiques. At a village market she found an ornate full-length mirror with black wooden carvings twisting around its frame. The seller looked relieved when she bought it. "It's beautiful," Susie said. The old man simply replied, "Don't look into it after midnight." She laughed. Of course she looked. At exactly 12 o'clock, her reflection smiled. She hadn't. The smile widened, then it winked. Susie stumbled backwards. The reflection stayed perfectly still, watching. The next night she looked again. This time the reflection wasn't alone. A dark figure stood behind it. When Susie spun around, nothing. Night after night the figure crept closer, till eventually it rested one hand on reflected Susie's shoulder. She could almost feel cold fingers on her skin. Soon strange things began to happen. Doors opened by themselves. Photographs turned upside down. She heard breathing in empty rooms. Then one morning she noticed bruises around her wrists, finger-shaped. Every midnight the reflection became more alive, while Susie herself felt weaker, paler, more exhausted. Finally she covered the mirror with a sheet. At midnight, the sheet bulged outward, as though someone underneath was trying to climb free. A hand-shaped imprint slowly pushed against the fabric. Then another. Then a face. Cloth door. Not from the outside, from the inside. Her reflection stepped out onto the bedroom floor, perfect in every way, except its eyes were completely black. It smiled. "You've had my life long enough." Susie tried to run, but her own shadow wrapped around her feet. The reflection walked closer, closer, until they touched. Everything went black. The next morning, neighbours saw Susie watering flowers in her garden. She waved cheerfully. She smiled, but she never blinked. And every passerby who happened to glance through her bedroom window noticed something strange. Inside the mirror, a terrified woman was pounding on the glass, mouthing the same